Hey, it's Michael. How are you?
I'm well.
I've got a couple of things that I'd like to ask you today. The first one being, could you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got involved with this product?
Oh, sure. Yeah, actually it went back over a decade ago when I was working for the family business, and they had the largest natural supplement distributorship in the United States. And I was in charge of the catalog, and I was in charge of training the staff about new products and so forth. Well, we represented about 450 of the most prominent natural supplement manufacturers, and I had a lot of, I was taking a lot of those products. Let's just face it. I had a whole warehouse of which I could avail myself, test things out, do research. Well, one day a brand new vendor came on board, and she was not your typical manufacturer or business person. This was an award-winning scientist. And she had these products that when I took them, within days, I felt the most extraordinary results. Even my vision, I didn't need my glasses, things like that. Well, I developed a relationship with this scientist. We became friends. She ultimately brought me from New York to Seattle to be vice president of her company. And she trained me and taught me about the value of growth factors. In fact, she got a grant from the National Institute of Health for her studies with AIDS patients, because none of her AIDS patients ever died. Why?
Wow.
Because she was using growth factors. Now, the product that we are discussing, the all-natural product we are discussing, the real active ingredient that distinguishes it from everything out there in the market is the fact that it contains fibroblast growth factor, one of the most powerful growth factors in the body. Unfortunately, we don't have it in our body as an adult. It's basically found in the placenta as we are being formed, and in the colostrum in milk when we're being breastfed. That's how critical this growth factor is to creating perfect physical form. In fact, the experts, and this is published, it's called the Experts Journal. They have an article and a study, clinical study, that the title of which says Fibroblast Growth Factor, the jack of all trades. They admit that although they don't know how this growth factor works entirely, that it is so profound in so many areas of healing and regeneration that they call it the jack of all trades.
Wow.
Pretty astonishing. And, judging from the testimonials that we all have heard and have experienced in our own lives, that's just an understatement of what it does.
What kind of results and testimonies are you talking about? What kinds of things have happened?
Well, I think for me as a former healer, I had my own practice, it is obvious to me that you can be ill in your physiology, you can be ill in your mental capacity, and you can be ill in your emotional capacity. The most astonishing thing about Fibroblast is the fact that because it really rewires your brain, and the brain is in charge of the entire organism, you find results not only physiologically in symptoms of blood sugar issues, elevated, acid or elevated, high blood pressure, sugar levels, you name it. You find all of those physical things ameliorating themselves and old injuries healing themselves, but you also find mental issues correcting themselves, memory issues. People who've had strokes start talking in a matter of weeks. Not only mental issues, emotional issues, which I personally believe is the scourge of mankind. The product is actually proven to ameliorate the effects of depression. It increases your serotonin, makes you happy. The literature, if you go to PubMed.gov, which is the repository of third-party clinical studies that are peer-reviewed and published, that this is the blue ribbon science of the world. if you type in fibroblast growth factor and take a look at the studies proven to heal all kinds of situations, you will be astonished. Everything from schizophrenia to seizures to depression to, you know what trips me out even is most recently Harvard University did a study on fibroblast growth factor, and you know what they found? This is like
What's that?
Unbelievable. They found that it eliminates fear.
Oh gosh.
They trained these animals to have a terrorizing response to a certain stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
And then they introduced Fibroblast into the regimen for half the group. And when they reintroduced that terrorizing stimulus, none of the animals treated with the fibroblast growth factor had that startle response. They were no longer afraid. So in the literature, you will see anxiety disorders getting healed, depression, all kinds of things like that. People just feel happy and calm, unafraid, and my term for it is bulletproof. You just walk around feeling bulletproof.
That's amazing. What about, the typical aging things, like hair loss and your skin gets worse and your vision and, those just natural kinds of things?
Well, they're natural when you realize that the body is a self-planned obsolescence machine. We wind down. What that means is oxidative stress, toxins, all kinds of stress in the environment we start rusting essentially from the inside out. And what that does is it compromises the structure of our very DNA. The DNA gets damaged. So every time our cell replicates, we get worse and worse copies of that cell. Now, what they found in the literature that fibroblast growth factor actually fixes the damage done to our DNA. That's why over a period of time, even I remember one of the doctors saying that your real results, even though you feel this product very quickly, the real huge results happen in probably month 4 when your cells have been replicating and replicating better and better and better versions of themselves. So your skin gets better, your vision gets better, your hair gets thicker, shinier, bouncier.
Wow.
People start regrowing their hair. It starts coming in a darker color. Skin looks like it really does look like I've had a facelift. I'm 60, I'll be 66 in about a month, and I put on makeup every day, and when I looked in that mirror after about a few weeks, I said, oh my goodness, my eyes don't sag. Oh my goodness, look at my neck. It's like, oh, this is really, really handling a lot of amazing issues. So, I just truly believe this is probably they talk about a magic bullet, and that has kind of a negative connotation because nothing's ever come close to that. We've been used to being routinely disappointed in product. We wind up urinating out most of the effects of the products because they're isolated. They don't have the cofactors in them. This product is a whole food. It contains everything that the body needs not only to structurally handle the job of repair work, but it has the software. The fibroblast growth factor acts as software. If you consider our brain as like a computer, which it kind of is, it's nothing without the software. And without the fibroblast growth factor, the brain does not know what to do. As soon as you administer that software, it's up and running. That's why we're seeing results as quickly as we are.
What a great analogy that is. What does it do to hormone levels? Does it have any effect on that?
That's a great question. And the reason growth factors are so extremely important is that they are signaling molecules. Most people recognize the term human growth hormone. It might as well be called human growth factor. It's a growth factor. It's the granddaddy of all, signaling molecules. And the reason it's important is because it monitors and it orchestrates the entire endocrine system. And what a lot of the doctors have found is that when you regulate serotonin, that's your happy hormone. And we've always heard is that if you're happy and peaceful, you'll be healthy. Mm-hmm. Well, there's good chemical reason for that because doctors have found that when you balance serotonin, like this product does, all of the other hormones balance behind it. It's looking for serotonin to be the leader. And so a lot of other hormones are totally handled. For instance, I've never trusted human hormone replacement therapy.
Right.
Because I never, even though they say it's natural, mm-hmm. It isn't natural in the sense that it requires a compounding pharmacy to figure out the dosages. I don't trust human error. I trust my own body and my own brain to diagnose and prescribe for my body what it needs. This product allows your body to diagnose and prescribe for itself.
Wow.
You are healing itself.
Well, that sounds almost like an adaptogen. Is it? I mean, does it have that kind of property?
Perfect term. It is. The brain, it gives all of the ingredients and software necessary for the brain to balance itself. That is what the brain is constantly trying to do, is find homeostasis. And this is what the product does. It checks blood sugar levels, balances them. Checks acid-base balance of the blood, balances it. Checks cholesterol levels, balances it. Checks sugar levels, balances it. Checks serotonin levels, balances it. It's really I'm so glad this came into my life.
Would you, I mean, other than adaptogen, it almost sounds like it's also a regenerative product. I mean,
without a question, it's the one of the most profound wound healers in the entire body. I mean, I'm living proof. I sustained a near-death experience in a car accident, crushed my femur and my hip in 1983.
Wow.
And I left all the artillery in there because the doctors almost killed me putting it in. And I took that as a sign that Western medicine was just not going to be my path. And I was right. So I left all of this artillery in my body. You can imagine the damage that sustained, blocked meridian, scar tissue. I've been limping and in pain, and it got progressively worse with aging. Mm-hmm. The deterioration in that left leg. Well, all I can say is there is no vestiges of that. For the first time in my life, and you know it took somebody else to notice, they said, Phyllis, I was at a meeting and somebody, they were listening to me with all these wonderful tales, so they asked my friend, Nancy, what have you noticed about the changes in Phyllis? And one of the first things she said was, well, she's not limping anymore. I didn't even notice it because I had become so accustomed to the pain and the limping, it took someone else for me to notice it.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
It's just amazing.